Hello everyone, Andrew here from the JavaScript Bard, where I introduce you to interesting and practical tools and techniques that you can implement on both the client side and server side of your JavaScript web applications. Today, we're going to be building a simple chat app, so we're going to be setting up an Express server using Express.js again. We're going to be using a handy event library called Socket.io, and we're going to tie it together with a little bit of front-end JavaScript and a little bit of CSS and HTML in the form of pug templates. So, without further ado, let's get started. Right, so as you can see, I've got a brand new project set up here. I've called it Chat. And the very first thing that we need to do is go to the terminal and type in npm init. And that's going to set up a nice little package.json file for us. So we'll leave all those as default. And then we want to set up an Express app. So I'm going to do that very quickly by running npx express generator, express-generator. And that's going to set up the scaffolding of the Express app for us. So we don't need to handle any of that. Okay, and once that's there, I'm just going to run npm install to install all our package dependencies. And now we should be good to go with our Express app. We sure are. Look at this. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is go to routes, not routes, views, and index.jade, and we're just going to get rid of the default there. And what we want for our chat app is we want a form, right? We want somewhere where the user can type in and then submit the form, and then the chat appears up at the top, right? So let's have a UL where the chat's going to appear. And we will also have a form, and inside the form we'll have an input element. We'll give it the ID user message, and that's where the user is going to type in their chat message. And then we will have another input with a type of submit, and that's going to submit the form. Now, you may be wondering why I didn't put a post method on the form, and that's because Socket.io handles all that server stuff for us. So we're not going to be posting anything to the server. It's fantastic. So let's also give it the ID of submit. And that's really all we need for that. So let's open up styles, and in style sheet, style.css, and just pretty it up a little bit. So we want the form on the bottom of the screen, right? Because in a normal chat app, you've got the input on the bottom, and then the chat kind of appears at the top, right? So let's style our UL, because by default it has those little bullet points there. So let's get rid of those little bullet points by saying list style none. And then for the form itself, let's just position it absolute, and then we'll say bottom 1em, and that's going to position it a little bit above the bottom of the screen for us, just like you would see in a normal chat application, right? All right, and in layout.jade, we just want to import our scripts, right? So we want to include socket, which we have not installed yet. I'll do that in just a second here. So we're going to say script source equals socket.io/socket.io.js, and this is the front-end script that we're going to use. And then we will also include our JavaScripts. So we'll say source equals JavaScripts/script.js. Again, we haven't created it yet, but in just a second here, we're going to create a JavaScript file for the front end. Okay, so before I forget, let's type npm install socket.io. And this is the event library that we're going to be using to handle our chat app. Once socket.io is installed, let's head over to JavaScripts folder here in our public directory and create a new file, and we'll call it script.js. And let's start working on the front-end code for our app, right? So we want to include socket, which is the library for our front end, right? So we're going to say const socket equals io, and we're going to pass it the server that our app is listening on. So in our case, that's going to be localhost port 3000 because by default, Express Generator sets up our server on that port. Okay? And then we want to grab the elements on the screen, right? So we're going to want to grab the form. We're going to use document.querySelector here because it's the only one on the screen. We'll pass it the form. We want to grab the input that the user types into, right? So const input equals document.querySelector. And I believe we called it user message. We gave it the ID of user message, right? And then we want to grab the UL that the chat goes into, right? So we'll just say const UL equals document.querySelector and pass it the UL because it's the only one on the page, right? So the first thing that we want to do is we want to add an event listener on our form, right? So when the user types in a message, submits the form, it does something with it, right? So we're going to add form.addEventListener. And we're going to pass it E because the very first thing we want to do is call e.preventDefault. And the default behavior of a form submission is to redirect, right? And we don't want that. So this e.preventDefault is going to prevent that. And now we want to grab the message that the user typed into the input. So we're going to say let message equals input.value. Again, input is declared up here. So we grab the value of that, stored in a variable. And then we want to shoot that message to the server, and this is where socket.io comes in. So we're going to say socket.emit, and we're going to say message. And what this is a custom event. Remember how I said socket.io is essentially an event library, right? So we're passing it our own custom event that we've called message, and we'll just pass it the message variable that we declared. And then last but not least, we want to clear the input, right? So after the user submits the form, the input is clear and ready for them to type another message. So we'll just set input.value to an empty string. All right, and now on our server, let's go to our bin folder right here and www JavaScript file and see how we're declaring an HTTP server right here. So what socket is it's an event library, and what we want to do is we want to wrap our server kind of around it, right? And it's actually very easy to do. We'll just do it in one line of code here. We'll say const io equals require socket.io. This is going to bring socket.io into our project. And we want to both initialize it and wrap our server around socket, right? So in our parentheses at the end here, we'll just pass it server. It's as easy as that. And now we want to receive the message from the front end and process it, right? So remember how in script.js we emitted our message right here? Now we want to receive that on the server side. So down at the very bottom of the www file, I'm going to say io.on connection. Now connection is another event. It's a built-in event with socket, and essentially what it does is once a user subscribes to the server, once a user connects to the server, it does something. It throws an event. So we're going to pass it an event handler here in the form of a callback function. And we will pass it the parameter of socket. And then let's just console.log user connected, just so we know that somebody connected. And now let's process the message that we're sending from the front end, right? So we're going to say socket, which we passed in as a parameter here, socket.on. Again, message is the name of the event that we created, right? We'll pass it the message, log that message to the console, and then we want to send it back to the front end, and then the front end can process it and do what it wants with it, which in our case, we're going to create an li tag and append it to the UL at the top of the page, right? So we're just going to say io.emit. Again, our event name is message, and we're going to pass it message. That's it. That's all we got to do. And now we want to receive it on the front end and do something with it. We're going to create a li element and append it to that UL at the top of the page. So we're just going to say socket.on. Again, socket we've declared up here already. Again, message is the name of the event. And that takes an event handler, so in the form of a callback function. So we're going to pass it our message as a parameter, and then all we want to do is create an li element, create an li element and append it to the ul, right? So we're just going to say ul.insert adjacent HTML, and then we're going to pass it before end. That's going to append it to the end of the ul, right? And then let's create a template literal with an li tag, and then we interpolate message inside of that. Close out the li tag, and there you have it. So let's go ahead and start up our server and see what's up here. I'm going to run npm start to start our Express server. And once our server has started, we can navigate to localhost port 3000. So good, we've got our form down at the bottom here. If we go to our terminal, we should see user connected, but we don't. All right, not sure why. Let's see if there's anything. Oh yeah, see right here, failed to execute add event. 2 arguments required, only 1 present. Script.js line 6. So let's head to script.js. And, right, on our event listener here. So we need to pass in submit as a parameter here so that the form knows what kind of event it's, what type of event it's listening for, right? So submit and then the callback function, right? All right, so head back over here and refresh, and in our terminal, and looks like name not resolved on the front end. So I forgot our http:// here. That's very important. So once that's in there, let's kill our server and restart it. And refresh. And again, I should see user connected here. Excellent. And then down here, let's just type in, hello, I'm Andrew. Submit, and it appears up at the top right there. Nice to meet you. Again, it appends another li there. Now, to show you that this works across browsers as long as you're connected to the same server, I'm going to open up an incognito window here, and again navigate to localhost port 3000, and I'll type in, hi Andrew, it's also nice to meet you. Press submit, it appears up at the top here, but if I go back, you can see it also appears here. So this works across your server, and now you have a chat application. You can actually chat with people through this. So there you have it, a basic chat application. This has so many use case scenarios, and I'd be thrilled to see what you guys can build with this. I'll leave a link to the documentation in the description. It's excellent, and please share your projects in the comments because I would love to see them. Thank you so much for watching today. As always, if you liked this, please be sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell so you don't miss any future videos. Until next time, take care.